All right, to get us started, I'm going to play this little gem.
Hey, spending limit? Who cares?
Not us, cause them ain't no credit codes.
Sure ain't.
Them motorcycles was expensive and fast.
And loud.
Oh yeah, them bikes be like wah.
No, like.
They went like wah. Sound good cause they free. Shoot.
Yeah, shoot.
Citi Identity Theft Solutions. Talk to a real person to help get your life back. Free when you get a Citi credit card or Citibank account.
See, that is what you look like. That is how you come across when you do not think strategically about your brand's personality attributes, when you do not think about how you apply them and where they come to life. Basically, when you don't think about how your brand comes to life, that's what you sound like. And when you do that, you create confusion. You look unprofessional. You cede advantage to your competitors. Now, brand personality attributes have always been important when building and protecting a brand. But now, in the age of AI, it's even more important because your well meaning colleagues are out there using ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini to try to get work done, but they're not doing it in the context of your brand personality attributes. In this video, we are going to define what brand attributes are, demonstrate how they bring your brand to life, give you some suggestions on how you can implement them across your organization. And at the end, we are going to give you some resources so you can find your own brand personality attributes, complete with a free worksheet to download. Ready? Let's get started. When businesses and organizations talk about themselves, they talk about what they do. They talk about how they do what they do and how they're different from all the other options people have. The good ones also talk about why their work is important, but that's probably another video. The brand personality attributes bring consistency to all of those messages. They help you say the same thing, they help you say different things in the same way. As we all know, the same words can communicate different things based solely on the tone of voice. For example, I can say, we can have that done by Friday, or I could say, we can have that done by Friday. Same exact words, but two completely different meanings. Along those same lines, the brand personality attributes also imbue an emotional connection to the words you speak. And as we've said in previous videos, humans make decisions, even B2B ones, analytically and emotionally. And the brand attributes, when they are selected carefully, when they are implemented consistently, they help connect that emotional, make that emotional connection with the people most important to your success. Think of it this way: your brand personality attributes should be the same as if your brand were a person. If your brand were a person, how would you want people to describe him, her, or them? How would you want them to come to life? How would you want them to be seen? And so that's why we use words like creative and not cloud-based, why we use words like driven and not asynchronous, because the brand personality attributes, if they are appropriate for a human, those evoke emotion, and the others, not so much. Brand attributes also help you distinguish yourself from your competitors. Just like people, brands have faces and voices. For example, if you're here in the US and you see a Target television commercial, you know right away it's Target because it's white and it's red. The logo doesn't show up until the end, but right away you know that it is a Target commercial. Same with brands like Walmart and brands like Starbucks. You don't have to be a household name to take advantage of the benefits that brand personality attributes can bring you. In fact, if you're not a household name, they can only help you stand out from your competition. All right, well, let's look at a real world example. I'm going to give you two competitors, and I'm going to show you what they each wrote on their websites about DEI. Now, these are a couple years old, but that doesn't matter because they are great examples of how verbal identities really do reinforce differentiation between brands. So let's get started. We've got one here on the left that says, at our company, we're not all the same, and that's our greatest strength. We draw on the differences in who we are, what we've experienced, and how we think, because to create products that serve everyone, we believe in including everyone. Now, on the right, we've got, we believe in the transformative power of diversity and inclusion. Only by actively engaging different perspectives can we challenge and stretch our thinking, enrich the experiences of our employees, and empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Now, before I tell you who those are, I'm going to give you a second to take a guess. All right, I'm going to show it. It is Apple and Microsoft. Now, to be perfectly clear, there is nothing wrong with either one of these. They do what they're meant to do, and they do it in a way that reinforces the brand personality of each of them. Now, I'll throw in right now that this is very subtle stuff, but it's powerful. Subtle, but powerful. As I just suggested, brands, like people, have faces and voices. For people, we recognize each other based on our face. When we see someone coming down the street, walking down the sidewalk towards us, and we know them, we know who it is because of their face. Brands are the same way. They have logos, they have color palette, they have fonts, they have imagery that they use in a consistent way. That's how they create their faces. And before the days of caller ID, which, yes, there was a day before caller ID, we recognized each other's voice. We recognized each other just based on the sound of our voice when we picked up a telephone call. And that's the exact same thing that a tone of voice for a brand can do. Here are some examples. Look at how these brands look different and sound different just based on these brand personality attributes. All right, let me give you an example of a client we had a couple years ago in the biotech space. Working with them, we came up with the following brand personality attributes. Driven. First and foremost, we are here to improve people's lives. Courageous. We are unafraid of the challenges we face in this important work. Generous. Our success is predicated on a spirit of collaboration, kindness, and generosity. And leader. We will always strive to stand out, lead, and epitomize all that is good in our industry. So, working with those 4 brand personality attributes, we came up with a variety of creative, starting with this color palette that our senior art director, Kim Vanny, put together. Each one of these colors has a very distinct connection with one or more of these brand attributes, and she can explain them much better than I. But that in turn inspired the logo, which is, it also has other inputs than these attributes. There's strategy behind the logo creation, but the attributes certainly are present here as well. And that influenced the new website we created for them, along with a lot of other collateral. But least you think that the brand personality attributes are just for visual, it is also for verbal. So before, they might have said something like, our mission is to revolutionize modern cancer treatment by discovering and developing safe, effective, and highly targeted radiopharmaceuticals. Well, given these personality attributes, after would look something like, modernizing cancer treatment is no small feat. By discovering and developing highly targeted radiopharmaceuticals, we will revolutionize cancer care by combating its toughest tumors and improving people's lives. The first step in getting everyone in your organization to embrace your brand personality attributes and put them to work building and protecting your brand is to explain why it's important. Before you tell someone what to do or ask them to do something, if they know why it's important, they are far more likely to do it. And the easiest way is probably just having them watch this video. And I'm not just saying that because I want more views, or am I? Both things can be true. So first of all, you've got to help them understand why brand personality attributes matter so much. Second, make certain that you give them examples that they can relate to, like the Apple and Microsoft examples I just shared, or maybe examples from your own market, or with your competitors, or with other brands in your space that you respect. Next, Do a messaging audit. I know. Again, with a messaging audit, why is he constantly trying to sell these messaging audits? Well, I'm trying to sell you on the concept of messaging audits because they're really important. They help you understand where you are relative to all of the competitors that you have, relative to all of the options other folks have. So a messaging audit can help you understand how your competitors are positioning themselves in the marketplace, how they come across, what are their faces, what are their voices, and can help you get you an objective look at your own. So a messaging audit in this case is really helpful too. The next is brand guidelines. If you don't have brand guidelines, oh my God, get brand guidelines already. Inconsistency is enemy number one of a strong brand. And brand guidelines are the first line of defense against a weak brand. So you've got to have your brand guidelines up to date. You've got to have them clear and you've got to have them readily available. Next, think about how your team is using AI and create brand gate guidelines that are focused on helping your colleagues use AI in a brand building and a brand protecting way. As I mentioned earlier, your well-meaning colleagues are creating customer emails using Gemini. They're creating LinkedIn graphics using ChatGPT. And they might say, yeah, these are our colors, but if they don't have the specific values, if they don't have the specific attributes to influence the tone of voice, they're not going to sound like you, because AI goes out in the universe and brings together various signals to create what you're looking for. And by definition, it's not unique. It is an amalgamation of everything AI can find, everything that's out there. So finding guidelines for AI is really important. We've been thinking a lot about that lately, and have just offered a service that will take your take your regular guidelines and make them AI ready. There's a link in the notes about how to find it, as well as through this QR code. So those are the ways that you can help implement implement brand personality attributes in your organization. Make sure they understand why it's important. Show them examples that they can relate to. Make certain you have brand guidelines. Do a messaging audit and create AI-ready brand guidelines. Ready to find yours? Great. We have built a free worksheet you can grab right now. It's 4 steps, takes about 10 to 20 minutes, and it starts the way this kind of work should always start, by brainstorming in your own words how your brand actually acts, talks, and shows up. You can find it in a link in the description, as well as through the QR code you see right here. All right, step 1. Come up with about 16 words that describe your brand. Remember, we want to imagine if your brand were a person. How would you want that person to be described? Think things like bold, not cloud-based, or creative, not synergistic. Go with your first instincts, no overthinking. And once you've done that, it's time to move on to step 2. All right, step 2. Now here's the academic part. We're Now, step 2. Here's the academic part. We're eventually going to sort those words against 5 personality families that Jennifer Aaker uncovered in her groundbreaking research in 1997, Dimensions of Brand Personality. This is a study that has stood the test of time, and those are sincerity, competence, excitement, sophistication, and ruggedness. Here are some examples for each. Now, note that these are just examples. You are free to pull from the entire English language or whatever language you're using. And for sincerity, we've got examples like honest, down to earth, cheerful, genuine. For competence, we've got reliable, capable, successful, sharp. Excitement brings things like daring, imaginative, current, and bold. Sophistication is polished, upscale, refined, and glamorous. And ruggedness is tough, no frills, outdoorsy, resilient. Now, these 5 families were put together through exhaustive research, and again, as I said, they have held the test of time. Now it's your turn. Head back that list of 16 and add them to this chart. Then pick the family which most closely aligns with each. Don't worry if it's not immediately obvious. Many of these will be judgment calls. Remember, the goal is to be dominant in 2, maybe 3 of these families, not to find one for each. Because if you only had one family, you'd be one-dimensional, you'd be boring, and that's unrelatable and unable to create those all-important emotional connections. And if you had all 5, you wouldn't have a personality. You'd be sending out a vibe to people that you are all things to all people. And certainly nobody wants that either. So take your adjectives and put them in this chart to find out where you think they belong. Now, step 3, check the mirror with a one gut check question. Do the words on that list match your last 5 emails or posts or proposals? Does it match what you actually sound like? Does it match what you want to sound like? And so look through those words and find 3, maybe 4. These are going to be the words that you give a new hire, you give a freelancer, or you even give AI, so that they can create a tone of voice that is consistent with who you are, who you want to be. And if you're not sure, ask a neutral third party. Have them read something of yours and ask them if they sound like your attributes. If they don't, just give it another go. All right, step 4, this is the last one. Once you've landed on your 3 or 4 strongest, most authentic adjectives, write 1 to 2 sentences for each that describe what you mean by each. One man's bold is another man's aggressive. Here are 2 examples. All right, so for pragmatic, we want to give off the vibe that from embracing technology so we can work smarter and faster to not letting perfect be the enemy of finished, we get work done. So that's what this adjective is trying to communicate. Another one could be collaborative. Cooperation and respect for others' points of view are programmed into our DNA. So that's how you fill out this worksheet. All right, that is an honest look at what brand attributes are, what they do, how you can get your colleagues to embrace them, and most importantly, how you can find your own. Be sure to download that free workshop. Now, if you're a small company, you don't need a consultant like me to determine that you are bold and creative versus academic and quiet. You can figure that out on your own. And I hope this video will help you put those to work. Where you might need someone like me is when you're about to spend money on a new marketing campaign, when you have a new competitive threat, or when there's a major change in your market. Without a strategic look at how you show up in the world through your brand personality attributes, you are likely going to lose a lot of money, waste a lot of money, you're going to cede some competitive advantage, and you will fall behind. These are that important. So a consultant like me will come in and they will help you think through your entire brand strategy, including these brand attributes. We have, as I've mentioned before, a methodology called Ask, Build, and Connect that we've been using and evolving for years. And we can help you with that, as can many other people who do what I do. All right, that's it for this video. In the comments, I want you to pick a brand and give me an example of a brand personality attribute that you think they imbue. An Apple or a car company or even a clothing line. So I'll get you started by doing one first. But in the meantime, again, thank you for watching. And of course, as always, stay on brand.